The last thing you expect when you're doing something as mundane as picking your son up from a sleepover, it's end up saving 3 people's life in a plane crash. But that's exactly what happened to me in May this year. My son Giacomo, 15, had been staying at his friend's in Leavenworth, and we were driving home to Abergavenny on the A40 when I suddenly saw a small plane coming down. It all happened so quickly, out of nowhere. It crashed literally 200 yards away from where we were driving. The plane had hit the power lines and crashed into the central reservation, overturning and bursting into flames. We were going 70 miles an hour, and I slammed on the brakes and swore. Luckily, I managed to stop, otherwise we may have careered into it ourselves, which is a terrifying thought. I jumped out, leaving Giacomo in the car. I remember shouting at him to stay where he was, because we really didn't have time to mess around. The plane was upside down, and flames were coming out of the cockpit. I could hear screaming, so I climbed under the wing where I could feel the heat and smoke. I started trying to kick the windows in, but I couldn't get through, and it was at the point, with the heat of the fire coming over the top of the plane, that I started thinking I might have to bail out of there or I would be dead myself. Luckily, the small windows at the back of the plane had cracked, so my best bet was to kick those through, as it would be easier than breaking the others, which felt impossible to get past in the heat. It worked, and looking back, we were incredibly lucky. It's horrible to think if that window hadn't been cracked, it would have been completely a different story. I think there must have been roughly half a minute between getting the first and the last person out. I bought a teenage girl and a boy out. Then another guy, who turned out to be Joel Snar, arrived on the scene to help at just the right time. I don't think I would have been able to get the pilot out. He was a big guy, but Joel managed to grab him by the arms and yanked him out in just in time. There is no way he would have survived if Joel hadn't been there. I could tell straight away Joel had a military background by how he conducted himself. He had this sense of composure that helped us in the moment. We just got all 3 of them to a safe distance when the aircraft was completely engulfed by the flames. From the moment I dashed out my car to the moment the plane exploded can have been more than 2 minutes. The emergency service arrived pretty quickly, and we were at the scene for a couple of hours while they dealt with the fire and cleared the roads. Thankfully, Stuart Moore, the pilot, and his nephew and his niece, Jack Moore, 19, and Billy Manley, 16, have all since made a full recovery. When I got back to the car, I turned it around and looked at the pole of the flames. We drove the rest of the journey in silence, stunned. The following day, Joel and I were put on a call together by a radio station. I haven't advertised it, as I like to keep myself to myself, but because we live in a small town, everybody recognizes your face. And after the awards, it will probably get a bit lively again. Aside from when the kids were born, this is the proudest achievement of my life. I'd do it all over again. I'm so proud we managed to save all 3 people inside that plane.